The scent of rosemary and garlic filled my kitchen, a perfect harmony that had taken hours to achieve. I'd spent my entire Sunday preparing this roast, determined to make tonight's dinner special. Ryan deserved a proper celebration for his promotion, even if his mother insisted on joining us. I'm Camille, and until today I thought I knew exactly how to handle my mother-in-law's peculiarities. The sound of the front door opening made me tense. Linda's voice carried through the house before I could even see her. "Oh, Ryan, darling, I brought your favorite pot roast, the one you've loved since you were little." My fingers gripped the counter's edge. She wasn't supposed to arrive for another hour, and I definitely hadn't invited her to bring food. The click of her heels against the hardwood grew louder, each step a countdown to inevitable confrontation. "Something smells interesting in here," Linda announced, sweeping into my kitchen like she owned it. Her designer handbag swung from one arm, while the other clutched a ceramic dish to her chest. "I made Ryan's favorite," I said, forcing a smile. "Remember? We discussed this last week. I wanted to surprise him." Linda's perfectly lined lips curved into something between a smile and a sneer. "Did we? Must have slipped my mind." She set her dish on the counter and lifted the lid off mine. Her nose wrinkled. "Oh dear, is this supposed to be pot roast?" "It's braised beef with rosemary and garlic," I explained, though I knew it wouldn't matter. "Ryan mentioned loving it last time we had it at—" "Sweetheart," Linda cut in, already pulling on disposable gloves she'd produced from her purse. "My Ryan has very specific tastes. He's always been sensitive about his food. I don't think this will agree with him at all." Before I could stop her, she grabbed my roast, the one I'd spent hours preparing, and dropped it straight into the garbage. The thud of meat hitting the bottom of the bin echoed through the kitchen like a gunshot. "There. Now we can serve him something proper." She turned to her own dish, humming as if she hadn't just destroyed hours of my work. Ryan chose that moment to walk in, loosening his tie. "Something smells amazing, Mom." He kissed her cheek, then glanced at me. "Where's that roast you mentioned this morning, Cam?" "Your mother threw it away," I said flatly. "Oh, come on now," he laughed as if I just told a joke. "Mom wouldn't do that." Linda patted his cheek. "Camille's just upset because her experiment didn't turn out right. You know how sensitive she can be about these things. Luckily, I brought your favorite." I watched Ryan's face, waiting for him to defend me, to question his mother's version of events. Instead, he grinned and reached for the serving spoon. "You're the best, Mom. Nobody makes pot roast like you do." Something snapped inside me then. Not loudly, not dramatically, but definitively, like a thread pulled too tight finally giving way. I'd spent 3 years trying to be the perfect wife, trying to navigate Linda's constant undermining with grace. But standing there, watching my husband eagerly dig into his mother's food while mine rotted in the garbage, I realized grace wasn't going to cut it anymore. "I'm going out," I announced, grabbing my keys. "But dinner's ready," Ryan protested, his mouth already full. "Eat with your mother," I said, heading for the door. "You two deserve each other." As I walked out, I heard Linda's voice. "She's always been so dramatic, hasn't she? You really must learn to handle her better, darling." I got into my car and started driving, no destination in mind. But for the first time since I'd married Ryan, I felt something other than hurt or resignation. I felt rage. Pure, clarifying rage. And underneath that rage was something even more dangerous. A plan beginning to take shape. I spent 3 hours driving that night, finally ending up at Alex's apartment. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside, already reaching for the wine. "You look like you've either committed murder or you're planning to," she said, pouring generously. "The night's still young." I accepted the glass, sinking into her couch. Linda threw my dinner in the garbage, right in front of me, and Ryan... My voice caught. He just laughed it off. Alex's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then held it up. "Speaking of your husband, that's his 4th text asking where you are." "Let him worry." I took a long sip. "For once." "You need to start documenting this stuff," Alex said, grabbing her laptop. "Every incident, every text, every time she shows up unannounced. Trust me, you'll want a record." "For what? Divorce?" The word hung in the air, heavier than I'd expected. for whatever comes next. She opened a new document. Start talking. By midnight, we had 3 pages of incidents. Reading them laid out like that, clinical and chronological, made my stomach turn. It wasn't just tonight's dinner. It was 3 years of calculated humiliation. My phone lit up with another text, this time from Linda. Ryan's very upset. A good wife wouldn't abandon her husband like this. Come home and we can discuss your behavior. She's unbelievable, Alex muttered, reading over my shoulder. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Ryan. Where are you? His voice was tight. Mom's worried sick. Mom's worried? I laughed. That's rich. Tell me, Ryan, did you even look in the garbage? Did you check to see if I was lying about what she did? Come on, Cam. You know how Mom gets. She just wants what's best for me. And what about what's best for us? For our marriage? Silence stretched between us. Then, maybe if you tried harder to understand her? I'm coming home, I cut him off. But not tonight. I need space. Space? He sounded genuinely confused. From what? If you have to ask, that's part of the problem. I hung up before he could respond. Alex closed her laptop. Stay here tonight. We'll figure this out tomorrow. But the next morning brought fresh hell. Linda had let herself into our house again and was organizing my closet when I got home. Oh good, you're back, she said, not looking up from where she was sorting my clothes into piles. These really aren't suitable for Ryan's new position. We should donate them. I stood in the doorway, watching her handle my carefully curated wardrobe like discount store rejects. Get out of my closet, Linda. Now, dear, there's no need for hostility. I'm helping you understand the standards expected of an executive's wife. The standards? My voice was eerily calm. Like throwing away food I spent hours preparing? Like undermining every decision I make in my own home? She straightened, smoothing her expensive blouse. I've raised a successful son. I know what's best for him. You're still learning, and that's okay. But your resistance to guidance is concerning. Where's Ryan? At work, of course. He was very hurt by your behavior last night. I suggested he give you time to collect yourself. Of course she did. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures of the closet scene. What are you doing? Linda's voice sharpened. Documenting. Alex suggested it might be helpful. Something flickered across Linda's face, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her. Fear, maybe? But it vanished quickly behind her usual mask of concern. That Alex, she said softly. She's not a very positive influence, is she? I was just telling Ryan how worried I am about your friendship with her. The threat was clear. Back off, or I'll poison Ryan against your best friend, too. I lowered my phone, meeting her gaze. You know what, Linda? Keep sorting. In fact, why don't you just move in? Take over completely? Because this, right here, this is the moment you've finally gone too far. I walked out, leaving her standing among piles of my clothes, and pulled out my phone to text Alex. You're right. I need to document everything, and then I need a lawyer. The family dinner was Linda's idea, of course. A chance to clear the air, she said. I knew better, but I went anyway, dressed in clothes she hadn't managed to donate during her closet raid. Ryan's childhood home loomed before me, all perfect landscaping and pristine windows. Inside, voices drifted from the dining room. I caught fragments of conversation that stopped abruptly when I entered. Camille? Linda's smile didn't reach her eyes. We were just discussing you. Tom, my father-in-law, shot me an apologetic look. He was the only one who seemed genuinely happy to see me. Ryan told us about your emotional outbursts lately, Linda continued, arranging silverware that was already perfectly aligned. We're concerned. Are we? I looked at Ryan. Or is this another private discussion between you and your mother? Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Cam, don't start. Actually, Linda interrupted. There's something we need to address. She pulled out an envelope from her purse. I didn't want to bring this up, but given your recent behavior. My stomach dropped as she removed several printed pages. I recognized them immediately. Screenshots of text messages between Alex and me, discussing Linda's behavior and my plans to document everything. Going through my phone, Ryan? My voice was barely above a whisper. When? He couldn't meet my eyes. Mom needed to show me. Show you what? I snatched the papers from Linda's hands. That I'm tired of being undermined in my own marriage? That I'm documenting your mother's abuse? Abuse? Linda's voice cracked with practiced emotion. Is that what you're telling people about me? About our family? She turned to Ryan. You see, this is exactly what I warned you about. The signs were there from the beginning. Signs of what? I demanded. Your instability, dear. Your paranoid tendencies, just like your mother. The room went silent. Tom's fork clattered against his plate. What are you talking about? I asked, but deep down I already knew. Linda had been digging. It wasn't hard to find out about your mother's hospitalization, Linda said softly. The mental health issues that run in your family. Why didn't you tell us before the wedding, Camille? My mother's breakdown after my father's death had been private, a brief, dark period she'd recovered from completely. I'd never told Ryan's family because it wasn't their business. But now, you investigated my family? I turned to Ryan. And you knew about this? Mom was worried, he mumbled. She thought I should know. Know what? That my mother needed help after watching my father die? That she got that help and recovered? Unlike some people who just manipulate and destroy everything they touch? Linda gasped. Ryan, do you hear how she talks to me? Enough. Tom's voice cut through the tension. Linda, this is cruel, even for you. Stay out of this, Linda snapped at her husband. Our son needs to understand what kind of woman he married. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You want to know what kind of woman I am, Linda? I'm the kind who's done playing your games. I turned to Ryan. And you? You went through my phone, shared private conversations with your mother, helped her dig up painful parts of my past to use against me. Camille, please. Ryan reached for my hand. We can work this out. I pulled away. Can we? Because right now, I'm not sure what's worse, your mother's manipulation, or the fact that you're too weak to stand up to it. Don't you dare call my son weak, Linda hissed. Why not? It's the truth. And here's another truth. I'm done with all of this. With you, with your games, and with my spineless husband who can't cut the umbilical cord. I walked out, ignoring Ryan's calls behind me. In my car, my hands shook as I pulled out my phone and dialed Alex. Remember when you said I should document everything? My voice was steady despite the tears streaming down my face. Well, now I need that lawyer, and I need you to help me plan something special for Linda, something she'll never see coming. The line was quiet for a moment. Then Alex said, Come over, we've got work to do. The text from Tom came 3 days after the disastrous dinner. Coffee? Just us. Need to talk. We met at a small cafe across town, far from Linda's usual haunts. Tom looked older than I remembered, his shoulders heavy with something more than years. I've been watching this happen before, he said, sliding into the booth. With Ryan's first serious girlfriend in college. Linda drove her away too. But this... He pulled out his phone. This is different. He showed me a video, Linda in their kitchen, speaking to someone off camera. Camille's becoming a problem, her voice crackled through the speaker. We need to handle this before she ruins everything. Ryan's finally getting somewhere in his career, and I won't let her emotional instability destroy that. When was this? My coffee went cold, untouched. Last week, before she dug up that information about your mother. Tom's expression hardened. She's been planning this for months, building a case against you. Why are you showing me this? Because I failed the last time, stayed quiet, watched that poor girl crumble under Linda's schemes. He leaned forward. But you're different. You're fighting back. And I want to help. My phone buzzed. Ryan calling again. I declined it, watching 3 text messages pop up immediately. He's worried, Tom said. But not about you, about losing control. Linda's taught him well. I can't keep living like this, I admitted. But leaving, everyone will blame me. They'll say I gave up, that I'm unstable, just like Linda wants them to think. Unless you change the narrative. Tom pulled out a manila envelope. I've been keeping records, dates, incidents, witnesses, Linda's pattern of behavior, not just with you, but with everyone she sees as a threat to her control over Ryan. I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Years of documented manipulation lay before me. Notes, photos, emails, a systematic dismantling of anyone who got too close to Ryan. Why didn't you stop her? I tried once, early in our marriage. His smile was bitter. Nearly lost everything, including custody of Ryan. Linda's very good at turning things around, making herself the victim. I learned to document instead of confront. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Linda. Ryan's heartbroken. If you come home now, we can work through your issues together, as a family. Tom read the message over my shoulder and snorted. Translation, come back so I can finish destroying you. I won't, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. But I need to be smart about this. Linda's already painting me as unstable. If I move too quickly, she'll use it against you, Tom finished. But what if you gave her exactly what she expects? Let her think she's winning while you build your case. Linda's confident right now, sloppy. The more evidence you gather, the harder it'll be for her to spin this her way. I studied Tom's face. Why help me now? Why not earlier? Because earlier, you were trying to save your marriage. Now? He gestured to the documentation. Now you're trying to save yourself, and that's a fight worth backing. My phone lit up with another message. Alex this time. Meeting with the lawyer set for tomorrow. You ready? I looked at Tom's evidence, then at my father-in-law's weary, determined face. I need to copy all of this, I said. And then we need to talk strategy. Linda wants a war? Let's give her one she'll never forget. Be careful, Tom warned. Linda's dangerous when she's cornered. So am I. I gathered the documents, my mind already racing with possibilities. And, unlike her previous victims, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. No more playing defense. It's time to show Linda what happens when she picks the wrong target. As I left the cafe, I felt lighter somehow. Not because the path ahead was clear, but because for the first time, I wasn't fighting this battle alone. And sometimes, that's all the advantage you need. Linda's annual charity gala was her crown jewel, the event where she paraded her perfect family in front of Seattle's elite. This year, she'd insisted I attend, despite our growing tension. Now I knew why. The ballroom sparkled with crystal and old money, but Linda's smile gleamed sharper than both as she clinked her glass for attention. I'd like to thank everyone for supporting our cause, helping families affected by mental illness. My champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. Next to me, Alex tensed. This cause is particularly close to our hearts, Linda continued, her eyes finding mine across the room. Sometimes these struggles touch our own families in ways we never expect. The room blurred. She wouldn't dare. My dear daughter-in-law's family has faced these challenges personally. Camille, darling, would you share your story? Your courage could inspire others. The silence felt like a noose. Dozens of faces turned toward me, expecting inspiration, expecting vulnerability, expecting me to play my assigned role in Linda's performance. I set my glass down with deliberate care. You're right, Linda. Family struggles with mental illness are important to discuss. I stepped forward, voice steady. Like the way some people use manipulation and gaslighting to control their loved ones. That's a form of emotional abuse, isn't it? Linda's smile flickered. Perhaps this isn't the appropriate venue, but you brought it up. I moved closer to the center of the room. Let's talk about it. About mothers who can't let go of their sons. About wives who document their mother-in-law's systematic emotional abuse. About husbands who check their wives' phones for their mothers. Camille. Ryan appeared at my elbow, voice low. You're making a scene. Am I? Or is your mother finally facing consequences? Linda recovered quickly, laughing lightly. You see what stress can do? Ryan, perhaps you should take Camille home. She's clearly overwhelmed. I'm not going anywhere. I pulled out my phone, opened my gallery. Actually, I'd love to share some documentation with everyone. Texts, videos, evidence of years of calculated. Ryan grabbed my wrist. Stop it. Now. The room went silent. Even Linda looked shocked at her son's grip on my arm. Choose carefully, Ryan, I said quietly. Everyone's watching. He released me like I'd burned him, but the damage was done. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Tom stepped forward, but Linda intercepted him. I think, she announced, we should give Camille some space. Clearly, she's having one of her episodes. Episodes? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. Is that what we're calling resistance to abuse now? Tell me, Linda, did you call it an episode when you drove away Ryan's college girlfriend too? Or do you have different labels for different victims? That's enough! Ryan's voice cracked like a whip. Mom's right, you need help. The room spun slightly. In that moment, seeing Ryan stand beside his mother, watching their united front against me, something inside me, finally, irrevocably broke. You're right, I said softly. I do need help. I need a divorce lawyer. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Linda's triumphant smile slipped. This wasn't part of her script. And one more thing. I turned to address the room. Every single person here should know that Linda Thompson's charitable foundation? It's been misappropriating funds for years. Tom has the proof. I'm sure the IRS will be very interested. Linda went pale. You're lying. Am I? Check your files again, Linda. While you were busy digging up my family's history, you should have been watching your own back. I walked out of the ballroom, head high, Alex right behind me. Behind us, chaos erupted. Linda's carefully orchestrated event, dissolving into scandal and whispers. That wasn't part of the plan, Alex muttered as we reached my car. Plans change. I slid behind the wheel, hands shaking but voice steady. Call the lawyer. Tell him it's time to file everything, all of it. What about no more waiting, no more strategic patience? Linda wanted to expose my family's struggles with mental health? Fine. But now everyone knows about her family's struggles with fraud. The divorce papers sat on our kitchen table like a loaded gun. Ryan stared at them, his face a mask I no longer recognized. 3 days had passed since the gala, and Linda's empire was crumbling. The IRS investigation already underway, society whispers growing louder. You're really doing this? Ryan's voice was hollow. Destroying my family? Your family destroyed ours first. I moved toward the window, needing distance. Sign them. Mom's reputation is ruined. Her foundation was stealing from people who needed help. Your father proved it. The door burst open. Linda stormed in, mascara smeared, clutching her phone. You vindictive little... She thrust the screen at me. Look what you've done. Local news headlines screamed about the foundation's investigation. Donor statements, financial discrepancies, Tom's carefully gathered evidence, now public record. Truth hurts, doesn't it? I said quietly. She slapped me. The crack echoed through the kitchen. Ryan didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. You think you've won? Linda's voice shook. You think exposing the foundation makes you powerful? I raised him. I shaped him. He'll always choose me. I know. I touched my stinging cheek. That's why I'm leaving. Not without consequences. She pulled another paper from her bag. Remember when you signed those loan documents for the boutique renovation? The ones Ryan helped arrange? My stomach dropped. What about them? The signatures? They're problematic. Fraudulent, one might say. Ryan noticed it months ago, didn't you, darling? Ryan wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom, we agreed. Agreed what? To hold it over my head? The pieces clicked together. How long have you been planning this? Since you started pulling away, Ryan admitted. Mom suggested we needed insurance, in case you ever lost control. The room spun. They'd been setting me up for months, maybe longer. Every loan document, every signature, all potential weapons. So here's what happens. Linda smiled, composed again. You drop everything. The divorce, the allegations, all of it. Or Ryan reports the fraud. Your career, your reputation, everything you've built, gone. You'd let her do this? I asked Ryan. Watch your mother destroy me? You destroyed yourself, he said quietly. The emotional instability, the paranoid accusations. Stop! My voice cracked. Just stop pretending this is about my mental health. This is about control. It's always been about control. Linda moved closer, triumphant. Sign a statement. Recant everything you said about the foundation. Blame it on emotional stress. We'll get you help, make this all go away. I looked at the divorce papers, then at Ryan, the man I'd loved, now a stranger wearing my husband's face. Everything I'd built, everything I'd fought for, balanced on a knife's edge. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Don't give in. Trust me. Well? Linda demanded. What's it going to be? I picked up the divorce papers, hands steady despite everything. You know what the difference is between us, Linda? You destroy people because you're afraid of losing control. I'm destroying your control because I'm done being afraid. You'll lose everything, Ryan warned. I already have. I walked to the door, divorce papers clutched to my chest. But here's what you don't understand. I'd rather lose everything fighting back than keep anything by giving in. You'll regret this, Linda called after me. When the police come, when your career implodes. Maybe. I turned back one last time. But not as much as you're going to regret underestimating me. I walked out, got in my car, and drove to Alex's apartment. My hands shook as I called Tom. They have evidence of fraud, I said when he answered. They're going to... Let them try! His voice was steel. Remember those documents I showed you? There's more, much more, including proof that Ryan and Linda coerced those signatures. We just needed them to show their hand. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply. So what now? Now? I could hear him smile. Now we show them what real consequences look like. The boardroom of Ryan's company felt like a courtroom, with Linda and Ryan on one side of the table, me on the other. Tom sat beside me, a manila envelope between us. Linda's lawyer kept checking his phone, probably watching their foundation's stock price continue to plummet. Let's make this quick, Linda said, her composure cracking around the edges. We all know why we're here. Do we? I opened my laptop. Because I'm here to discuss corporate fraud, coercion, and witness tampering. What are you here for? Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Camille, please. We can handle this privately. Like you handled those loan documents? Tom's voice cut through the room. The ones you and your mother manipulated to set up my daughter-in-law? Linda's lawyer leaned forward. Careful with accusations. Oh, these aren't accusations. I turned my laptop around, displaying emails between Ryan and Linda, discussing their plan to forge my signatures, to create their insurance policy against me. These are facts, documented, time-stamped facts. The color drained from Linda's face. How did you get your emails? I smiled. Tom's not just an engineer. He's a very good one, especially when it comes to digital security. This is illegal, Linda's lawyer protested, accessing private... Actually, Tom interrupted, as a board member of the foundation and Ryan's father, I had full legal access. The real question is whether the SEC will be more interested in these emails or the foundation's creative accounting. Ryan stood abruptly. You're bluffing. You wouldn't destroy your own career just to... To what, Ryan? To protect myself? To expose the truth? I kept my voice steady. Unlike you, I'm not afraid of losing everything. I already did, the moment you chose her over me. Linda's laugh was brittle. So this is revenge? Destroying what I built because I saw through your act? No. I opened the manila envelope, sliding documents across the table. This is justice. Signed statements from 3 other women, your son's ex-girlfriends, all documenting your pattern of manipulation, emotional abuse, and financial coercion. You found them? For the first time, real fear flickered across Linda's face. Tom found them. Turns out they were all waiting for someone to finally stand up to you. Ryan grabbed the statements, scanning them frantically. Mom? What is this? It's nothing, darling. Just more of Camille's paranoid. Stop, Ryan's voice cracked. Just stop lying. Please. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Here's what happens next, I said quietly. You both signed these papers admitting to the fraud attempt against me. The Foundation investigation continues, but focuses solely on financial mismanagement, not criminal charges. You, I looked at Ryan, resign from the company quietly. And you, I turned to Linda, step down from all charity boards effective immediately. Or, Linda's voice was barely a whisper, or everything goes public. The emails, the statements, the fraud attempts, everything. Ryan slumped in his chair. You've won. Is that what you want to hear? No. I stood, gathering my things. What I wanted was a husband who chose me. What I wanted was a family who respected me. What I'm settling for is making sure you never do this to anyone else. Linda grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You think this makes you strong? You're just proving how unstable. Take your hand off me. My voice could have frozen fire. Your gaslighting doesn't work anymore. Neither does your control. It's over, Linda. You lost. She released me like I'd burned her. As I reached the door, Ryan called out, I'm sorry, I should have... Should have what? Been stronger? Loved me more? Protected me? I didn't turn around. Save your apologies, Ryan. They're worth about as much as your promises. Walking out of that boardroom felt like emerging from underwater. Everything sharper, clearer, the weight of their manipulation finally lifting from my shoulders. Tom followed, carrying copies of everything. You okay? He asked. No. I smiled, surprising myself. But I will be. For the first time in years, I actually believe that. Behind us, through the closing door, I heard Linda's sharp intake of breath as her lawyer presumably explained just how completely she'd lost control. It wasn't quite justice, but it was enough. The boutique's grand reopening drew quite a crowd, though not for the reasons Linda would have expected. Society wives who once feared her influence now whispered behind their hands, watching me cut the ribbon with undisguised curiosity. The woman who took down Linda Thompson had become something of a local legend. Quite the turnout, Alex said, adjusting a display, though I noticed certain people are missing. I smoothed down my dress, one Linda had deemed unsuitable months ago. Tom called this morning. Said Ryan's finally moved out of their house, started therapy. And Linda? Still denying everything, last I heard. But her social calendar's surprisingly empty these days. The bell above the door chimed. I turned, greeting frozen on my lips as Ryan stepped inside. He looked different, thinner, older somehow. The crowd's chatter died down. I won't stay, he said quickly. I found this while packing. He held out a small box. Inside was the necklace I'd worn on our first date. Thought you might want it back. I don't. He nodded, unsurprised. I'm leaving Seattle. Fresh start, away from... He gestured vaguely, meaning clear. Away from Linda, away from the wreckage. Good for you. I told Mom I won't be calling for a while. That I need to figure out who I am without her voice in my head. He paused. Without her voice telling me who you were. And who am I, Ryan? Someone stronger than I ever gave you credit for. He set the box down. Someone I should have protected, not helped tear down. A young woman entered the boutique, glancing between us uncertainly. I recognized her, one of Linda's previous victims, now a successful attorney who'd helped build our case. Your 10 o'clock's here, Alex murmured. Ryan took the hint. I just wanted to say what you did, exposing everything. It wasn't just revenge. It was revolution. All these women Mom hurt over the years, they're finally speaking up. The whole system she built, the way she controlled everyone, it's crumbling. That wasn't my goal. Wasn't it? He smiled sadly. Maybe not consciously. But you did something none of us were brave enough to do. You stood up to her. Really stood up to her. I stood up for myself, I corrected. There's a difference. He nodded, turning to leave. At the door, he paused. I'm sorry, Camille. Not just for what happened, but for who I was. Who I let her make me. I know. I met his gaze steadily. But your apology doesn't change anything. No, he agreed. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some things shouldn't be fixed, just learned from. After he left, Alex squeezed my shoulder. You okay? I watched through the window as Ryan walked away, shoulders straight but heavy with recognition. Behind me, Linda's former victim, now my client, waited to discuss her own journey to freedom. Around us, the boutique hummed with new energy, transformed from Linda's battlefield into my sanctuary. You know what's funny? I turned to Alex. For years, I thought winning meant making Linda suffer like she made me suffer, making Ryan understand how much he hurt me. But now I realize winning isn't about them at all. It's about me, about who I became while fighting back. The young attorney stepped forward, others gathering around her. Women Linda had tried to break, now standing tall in a space I'd reclaimed. Not just customers, survivors, warriors. Ready to get started? I asked them, and their collective strength filled the room like sunlight after a storm. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I first started fighting back. It was better, because revenge might have taken Linda down. But justice? Justice had lifted all of us up. I picked up Ryan's box, the necklace inside catching the light. Not a reminder of what I'd lost, but of what I'd found. My voice, my strength, my truth. I handed it to Alex. Add it to the donation pile, I said. Someone else might need it more. Someone just starting their own revolution.
The crisp autumn wind carried the scent of pumpkin spice and freshly baked goods as I made my way down Main Street, clutching a stack of flyers for the annual Harvest Festival. The town square bustled with activity, and I couldn't help but smile at the familiar faces, setting up booths and decorating the park's gazebo with vibrant fall foliage. Lila, over here! My heart sank as I turned to find my sister, Marla, waving me over with a saccharine smile plastered across her perfectly made-up face. Even after a decade, the sight of her still stirred a whirlwind of emotions within me. Anger, resentment, and a lingering sadness that our bond had shattered beyond repair. Marla, I managed, forcing a tight-lipped smile. Fancy seeing you here. Her eyes narrowed ever so slightly, zeroing in on the flyers in my hands. Still running that quaint little bookstore of yours, I see. The condescending lilt in her voice was like nails on a chalkboard. Yes, and it's doing quite well, thank you. Marla let out a derisive laugh, shaking her head. You always were the hopeless romantic, clinging to those outdated dreams. When are you going to wake up and join the real world, Lila? A successful single woman like you shouldn't be wasting her time on such frivolous pursuits. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the flyers, fighting the urge to hurl them at her smug face. At least I'm living an authentic life, Marla, instead of the facade you've so carefully constructed. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. What's that supposed to mean? You know exactly what I mean, I shot back, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. You've always been jealous of me, ever since we were kids. That's why you did what you did. Stole Evan right from under me, just like you stole everything else that meant something to me. Marla's perfectly sculpted mask slipped, revealing a flash of the ugly, seething envy that lurked beneath. Don't flatter yourself, Lila. Evan was never yours to begin with. He just realized what a pathetic, delusional loser you are and came to his senses. Her words cut deep, ripping open old wounds that had never truly healed. But this time, something within me shifted. A burning determination ignited in my chest, fueled by a decade's worth of pent-up anger and resentment. Keep telling yourself that, Marla, I said, my voice low and steady. But we both know the truth, and one day everyone else will too. With that, I turned on my heel and strode away, leaving her sputtering behind me. The time for cowering in her shadow was over. This was the start of something new, a reckoning years in the making, where the scales of justice would finally tip in my favor. No more playing the victim. It was time for Marla to face the consequences of her actions. As I stormed away from my encounter with Marla, memories came flooding back like a tidal wave, threatening to drown me in their bitter currents. It started when we were kids, really. Marla was always the favorite, the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. While I was the shy, bookish one, content to lose myself in the pages of a novel, Marla craved the spotlight, demanding attention with her antics and tantrums. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Mom would chide, her brow furrowed in disappointment whenever I fell short of Marla's lofty standards. Things only escalated as we grew older. In high school, Marla ruled the social scene, her posse of sycophants trailing in her wake. She snatched up the captain's position on the cheerleading squad, as well as the lead role in every school play. "Who would want to watch a play with you as the star, Lila?" she sneered when I dared to audition. "You're about as interesting as a piece of wet cardboard." And then came Evan, the one bright spot in my life, the kindred spirit who saw something in me that no one else did. We met during our freshman year of college and instantly clicked, our shared love of literature and quiet nights spent reading together forming an unbreakable bond. At least I thought it was unbreakable. "Evan and I are getting married," Marla announced over dinner one night, her perfectly manicured nails gleaming as she flashed her gaudy engagement ring. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as I stared at her, dumbfounded. Evan, my Evan, had proposed to Marla? The pieces started to fall into place. The hushed phone calls, the sudden cancellations of our dates, the distant look in his eyes. "How could you?" I whispered, my voice cracking with the weight of his betrayal. Marla simply shrugged, a cruel smirk twisting her lips. "He wanted a real woman, not some mousy little wallflower. Can you blame him?" Our parents remained eerily silent, their stunned expressions soon giving way to poorly concealed delight. Finally, their golden child was getting the happily ever after she deserved. That night, as I lay in bed listening to Marla's peals of laughter drifting down the hall, a hard knot of determination took root within me. She might have won this round, but I wouldn't go down without a fight. It was time to turn the tables on my so-called sister. The next morning I confronted Evan, demanding answers. But his words were little more than a slew of excuses and half-truths, each one more pathetic than the last. "I'm sorry, Lila, but your sister, she's just got this fire, this passion that I can't resist." His voice trailed off, his gaze averting from mine as if he couldn't bear to see the devastation etched across my face. In that moment, I knew there was no salvaging our relationship, no coming back from the depths of his deception. Marla had well and truly poisoned the well, her venomous influence seeping into every crevice of what we'd once shared. As I watched Evan slink away, shoulders hunched in defeat, a cold clarity washed over me. If Marla wanted to play dirty, then so be it. This was war, and I wouldn't rest until I emerged victorious, even if it meant razing her precious fairy tale to the ground. I slammed the door behind me, leaning back against the cool wood as I fought to catch my breath. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, the echoes of Evan's feeble excuses still ringing in my ears. A soft knock made me jump, and I whirled around to find Theo standing in the hallway, his brow furrowed in concern. "Lila? Are you all right?" I heard yelling. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat, a choked sob escaping instead. Tears I'd been holding back for far too long spilled down my cheeks, and I found myself enveloped in Theo's comforting embrace. He was an unlikely friend, the shy, socially awkward tech genius who lived down the hall. We'd bonded over our shared love of books and penchant for staying in on Friday nights, content in each other's company. "It's Marla," I managed finally, pulling away to swipe at my damp cheeks. "She's done something unforgivable." Theo's expression hardened, and he guided me into my apartment, settling us on the worn sofa. "Tell me everything." And so I did, the whole sordid tale spilling from my lips in a torrent of heartbreak and fury. Theo listened without interruption, his jaw tightening as I recounted Marla's latest betrayal. "That manipulative, lying snake," he muttered when I'd finished. "She's gotten away with this for far too long, Lila. It's time we put a stop to her games once and for all." I blinked, taken aback by the steely determination in his voice. Theo was always the voice of reason, the level-headed counterbalance to my occasional bouts of recklessness. "What do you mean?" I asked warily. He leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a newfound intensity. "We're going to expose her for the fraud she really is. Strip away that perfect facade she's so carefully constructed and show everyone the truth that she's nothing but a selfish, conniving witch who'll stop at nothing to get what she wants." A slow smile spread across my face as the weight of his words sank in. Revenge, sweet, delicious revenge, was finally within my grasp. How? I breathed, my pulse quickening at the thought. Theo's smile turned feral, sending a shiver down my spine. Leave that to me. I might not be much of a fighter, but I know my way around a computer system better than anyone. If there's dirt to be found on your sister, I'll find it. Over the next few weeks, Theo became my co-conspirator, my trusted ally in the battle against Marla's tyranny. He hacked into her emails, her bank records, her social media accounts, unearthing a trail of lies and deceptions that would make even the most hardened cynic blush. Financial misdeeds, extramarital affairs, backstabbing her so-called friends. No stone was left unturned as we meticulously compiled our arsenal of evidence. With each new revelation, the flames of my determination burned brighter, fueled by the knowledge that soon, very soon, Marla's reign of terror would come crashing down around her. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Theo asked one night as we pored over the mountain of incriminating files. "There's no going back once we pull the trigger." I met his gaze, unwavering. She brought this on herself. It's long past time Marla faced the consequences of her actions. A slow smile spread across his lips and he gave a solemn nod. "Then let's burn that bitch's world to the ground." The evidence was damning. A meticulously curated trail of infidelities, financial indiscretions, and outright lies that would make even the most hardened criminal blush. As Theo and I pored over the files, I could feel the righteousness of our cause burning within me, stoking the flames of a long-simmering fury. "Your sister really is a piece of work, isn't she?" Theo muttered, shaking his head in disbelief as he scrolled through yet another lurid email exchange between Marla and her latest boy toy. I shot him a withering glance. "You're telling me. I've been dealing with her lies and manipulations my entire life." He let out a low whistle. "Well, she certainly made a mess of things this time. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" A slow, feral grin spread across my face as the pieces finally clicked into place. "We're going to give her exactly what she deserves, a taste of her own medicine." Theo arched an eyebrow, intrigued. "Do tell." Over the next few hours, we hashed out the details of our plan. A meticulously orchestrated takedown that would strip Marla of every last shred of her carefully cultivated dignity. No more hiding behind her pristine veneer, no more playing the doting wife and beloved daughter. It was time for the world to see her for the duplicitous snake she truly was. "We'll start by planting seeds of doubt," I explained, tapping my finger against the stack of incriminating documents. "Leak a few choice tidbits to the right people. Let the whispers and sideways glances begin to chip away at her perfect image." Theo nodded, his expression grim. "And then we go for the jugular. Release everything we've got in one fell swoop. Let the truth detonate like a nuclear bomb right in the middle of her precious little fairy tale." Exactly. My gaze hardened, steely with resolve. I want her to lose everything. Her sham of a marriage, her status, her reputation. I want her to feel the same burning humiliation she inflicted on me all those years ago. For a moment, Theo's eyes softened, and he reached across the table to take my hand in his calloused grip. "Are you sure about this, Lila? This is a point of no return. Once we set this plan in motion, there's no going back." I met his gaze, unflinching. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Marla has lied and cheated and stolen her way through life for far too long. It's time she learned that actions have consequences. His lips curved into a grim smile, and he gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. "Then let's make that bitch pay." Over the next few weeks, we put our plan into motion, gradually leaking choice morsels from our trove of evidence to select members of our social circle. At first, the reveals were subtle, a whispered rumor here, a meaningful glance there, but soon, the doubts began to take root. I could see it in the way Marla's closest friends started to regard her with narrowed eyes, in the stony silences that greeted her at book club meetings and Sunday brunches. Little by little, the cracks in her meticulously constructed facade began to show, spiderwebbing outward until the whole sham threatened to crumble beneath the weight of its own deceit. And still, we kept the pressure on, releasing more damning evidence with every passing week. Sordid photos, incriminating audio recordings, bank statements detailing her financial treachery, nothing was off limits in our quest to decimate her credibility. Throughout it all, Marla remained blissfully oblivious, her perfectly coiffed head held high as she swanned through town, utterly convinced of her own untouchability. Her arrogance only fueled my determination, stoking the flames of a long-simmering fury that would soon erupt into an inferno of retribution. Because the best was yet to come, the grand finale that would reduce her entire world to ashes. I could hardly wait. The whispers had begun, a steady undercurrent of doubt and suspicion that rippled through our once idyllic town, eroding the foundations of Marla's carefully constructed fairy tale. I could see it in the sidelong glances and thinly veiled sneers that followed her wherever she went, the once adoring masses now regarding her with a newfound wariness. It was working, I realized with a quiet thrill of satisfaction. Our drip feed of damning evidence was having the desired effect, ripping away the layers of artifice and exposing the rot that lay festering beneath Marla's immaculate veneer. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. We needed to go bigger, to plant the seeds of discord deeper, if we were to ensure the total annihilation of her pristine reputation. "Time for phase 2, Theo murmured, his expression grim as he handed me a thick manila envelope. I raised an eyebrow, thumbing through the contents, a dossier packed with incriminating photos, financial statements, and transcripts of Marla's most salacious indiscretions. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "Once we put this out there, there's no taking it back." Theo's jaw tightened, his eyes hardening with resolve. "She made her bed, Lila. Now she has to lie in it." With a steadying breath, I nodded. It was now or never. Over the next few weeks, I embarked on a whirlwind tour of reconnection, reaching out to our once tight circle of family and friends with the guise of reconciliation. Coffees and long lunches were had, old bonds rekindled under the pretense of burying the hatchet and moving forward. All the while, I subtly steered the conversations toward Marla, sharing carefully curated snippets from the dossier that painted a vivid picture of her betrayals and moral failings. "I can't believe she did that to you," Mom gasped, her eyes wide with horror as she pored over the damning evidence. "Oh, Lila, I'm so sorry. We never should have taken her side." Dad merely shook his head in stunned silence, his expression stricken as the full weight of Marla's deceptions finally sank in. One by one, the dominoes began to fall, each revelation stripping away another layer of blind loyalty, until the full, ugly truth was laid bare. By the time I was done, our once impenetrable inner circle had been thoroughly turned, their allegiances shifting in the wake of Marla's undeniable transgressions. Even Evan, her hapless husband, found himself wavering as the sordid details of her infidelities and financial treachery came to light. "I can't believe she'd do this to me," he muttered, running a hand through his hair as he stared at the incriminating photos. "After everything." His voice trailed off, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a pang of sympathy for the man who had once been my world. But the feeling was quickly quashed, smothered beneath the weight of his own betrayal all those years ago. He'd made his bed, too. Now he could damn well lie in it. With each encounter, each deftly planted revelation, I could feel the tides beginning to turn in my favor, the ground slowly but surely shifting beneath Marla's feet. Her downfall was imminent, and I savored the anticipation like a fine vintage wine, letting it linger on my tongue as I bided my time. Because soon, very soon, I would have my reckoning, and Marla would finally answer for the lifetime of hurt and humiliation she'd inflicted upon me. This time, there would be no manipulations or lies to sway the judgment, only the cold, hard truth laid bare for all to see. I could hardly wait. The air was thick with anticipation as our family and friends gathered at Mom and Dad's house for what I had billed as a long-overdue reunion. Marla, of course, was fashionably late, a perfectly calculated move to ensure all eyes were on her as she swept into the living room, her every step oozing false graciousness. "So wonderful to have everyone together again," she simpered, air-kissing her way around the room as if she were royalty bestowing favor upon her subjects. I watched in stony silence, feeling the weight of the manila envelope burning a hole in my purse. Tonight was the night. The culmination of months of meticulous planning and strategizing. By the time the evening was through, Marla's reign of deceit would be nothing more than a smoldering ruin. "Let's get started, shall we?" I said, rising to my feet and gesturing for Marla to join me at the front of the room. I think it's high time we cleared the air about a few things. Marla's perfectly arched brows knit together in a slight frown, but she acquiesced with a saccharine smile, ever the gracious hostess. Little did she know, her world was about to come crashing down around her. For years, you've peddled this fiction, this carefully constructed fairy tale about who you are and what our relationship is, I began, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart. You've lied and manipulated and backstabbed everyone around you, all in service of maintaining your precious image. Marla's smile faltered, the first cracks beginning to show in her impeccable mask. Lila, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Marla. It's over. I pulled the envelope from my purse, letting its damning contents spill across the coffee table in a cascade of incriminating evidence. The truth is finally out. A hushed gasp rippled through the room as our friends and family leaned in, their gazes riveted on the lurid photos and bank statements that laid bare the full extent of Marla's betrayals. Infidelities, financial crimes, blatant lies, it was all there, exposed for the world to see in glaring, undeniable detail. Marla's face, drained of color, her perfectly painted lips parting in a silent scream of outrage as the reality of her situation began to sink in. You did this. How could you? A bitter laugh escaped my lips as I regarded her with cold disdain. How could I? That's rich, coming from you. You've spent our entire lives undermining me, stealing everything that should have been mine. Well, no more. This is your reckoning, Marla. The consequences you've been dodging for far too long. That's a lie, she snarled, rounding on our shell-shocked parents with pleading eyes. You can't possibly believe this nonsense. It's all a bunch of doctored photos and falsified documents. I swear! But the certainty had already seeped from her voice, cracking beneath the weight of the incriminating evidence that surrounded her. One by one, Mom and Dad, our friends, even Evan himself began to nod in grim acceptance, their eyes reflecting a newfound hardness as the scales finally fell from their eyes. I think we've seen more than enough, Marla, Dad said quietly, his voice heavy with a weariness that spoke of decades of being manipulated and misled. It's over. A strangled sound escaped Marla's throat, a guttural cry of anguished disbelief as the full weight of her deceptions came crashing down upon her. In that moment she was utterly alone, cast adrift in a sea of contempt and censure, with no allies, no lifelines to cling to. As I watched her crumple to the floor in a heap of designer clothes and smeared makeup, a profound sense of vindication washed over me. At long last justice had been served, and I had been the one to deliver it. The sweet taste of victory had never been so intoxicating. The aftermath of my grand revelation was swift and brutal, a reckoning that left Marla's once charmed life in smoldering ruins. As the shock wore off and the true depths of her deceptions came to light, a palpable shift took place, the tide of public opinion turning decisively against her. Suddenly, the same people who had once fawned over her every move couldn't be bothered to make eye contact, their faces a study in thinly veiled disdain and revulsion. Marla's supposedly dear friends dropped her like a bad habit, their long-standing allegiances crumbling beneath the weight of her exposed betrayals. Even our own family wasn't spared the fallout. Mom and Dad, so long blinded by Marla's manipulations, now regarded her with a potent mix of disappointment and simmering anger. How could you do this to us? Mom demanded during one particularly heated exchange, her eyes rimmed with unshed tears. After everything we've done for you, all the chances we gave you. Marla, for once, was uncharacteristically subdued, her usual bravado nowhere to be found. I'm sorry, she mumbled, her gaze downcast and lifeless. I never meant to hurt anyone. The words rang hollow, a feeble attempt at contrition that did little to salve the wounds her deceit had inflicted. Dad merely shook his head, his expression hardening. Save it, Marla. You made your bed. Now you have to lie in it. And what a bed it was, a tangled web of lies and indiscretions that quickly began to unravel with every passing day. Photos of her numerous affairs surfaced online, igniting a firestorm of scandal that left her reputation in tatters. Financial discrepancies were unearthed, hinting at potential legal troubles on the horizon. Even Evan, her hapless husband, couldn't turn a blind eye any longer, filing for divorce amidst a torrent of sordid revelations about her infidelity. Through it all, I watched with a strange sense of detachment, as if observing the implosion of someone else's life from a great distance. Gone was the seething rage that had once consumed me, replaced by a profound sense of catharsis, a weight lifted from my shoulders after years of carrying the burden of Marla's betrayals. She had brought this upon herself, I reminded myself whenever a flicker of residual guilt threatened to take hold. This was justice, pure and simple. The scales finally balanced after a lifetime of being tipped in her favor. Still, a part of me couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity as I watched Marla's world crumble around her. She had become a pariah, shunned and reviled by the very people who had once hung on her every word. Her once vibrant spirit was utterly extinguished, replaced by a hollow shell of a woman who seemed to drift through life in a perpetual haze of shame and regret. It was during one such encounter, as I passed her on the street and caught a glimpse of her haunted expression, that a sudden clarity washed over me. This broken, pathetic creature was the true Marla, stripped bare of all her pretenses and deceptions, and in that moment I realized that I had already won. There was no need for further retribution or grandstanding. Her downfall was complete, her infamous reign of terror reduced to ashes and ruin. All that remained was for me to turn my back on the smoldering wreckage and begin charting a new course, one free from the shackles of her influence and the bitter chains of the past. As I walked away, head held high and shoulders squared, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of lightness, as if a great weight had finally been lifted from my soul. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years it belonged solely to me. Marla's fall from grace was absolute, and I, the forgotten sister she had wronged so deeply, had not only survived it, I had emerged victorious. In the weeks and months that followed Marla's spectacular downfall, an odd sort of calm settled over my life. The all-consuming fury that had once burned like a raging inferno within me had finally been extinguished, leaving in its wake a profound sense of peace and acceptance. Oh, there were still moments when the old resentments threatened to resurface. A passing glimpse of Marla's haunted, hollow-eyed stare, or an errant comment from a well-meaning friend that dredged up the lingering pain of her betrayals. But those moments were fleeting, mere hiccups in my newfound state of tranquility. Because at long last I was free from the shackles of Marla's manipulations and the bitter chains of the past that had bound me for far too long. With her reign of deceit laid bare and her carefully cultivated image reduced to ash, the power she'd held over me had simply evaporated like a puff of acrid smoke dispersed by the winds of change. It was an odd sort of victory, I mused as I wandered the sun-dappled aisles of my bookstore one crisp autumn morning. Not the blaze of glory I might have once envisioned, with Marla beaten and humbled at my feet. No, this was something quieter, more profound, a reclamation of self, a shedding of old skins, and the rebirth of my own sense of worth and identity. "Hey, you!" The soft tenor of Theo's voice drew me from my reverie, and I turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, a hesitant smile playing at the corners of his mouth. My heart gave a treacherous little flutter at the sight of him. My co-conspirator, my partner in vengeance, and perhaps something more? "Hey, yourself," I replied, arching an eyebrow in silent query. "Everything okay?" He drew in a steadying breath, seeming to steel himself for whatever words were about to come tumbling out. I wanted to check in, see how you're doing with, well, everything." My lips curved in a rueful smile. "You mean with taking down the Wicked Witch of the Midwest?" Theo's grin widened, the familiar teasing glint returning to his eyes. "Something like that, yeah." I shrugged, aiming for nonchalance, even as my pulse quickened beneath the weight of his steady gaze. "I'm good, Theo. Better than good, actually. For the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel free." His expression softened, those warm eyes of his drinking me in with an intensity that sent a shiver racing down my spine. "I'm glad to hear that, Lila. Really glad." We lapsed into silence then, the words hanging heavy and electric between us. In that moment, I could have sworn I saw a flicker of something deeper in Theo's gaze. A promise, a beckoning toward new horizons and uncharted territory. But before I could gather the courage to give voice to the questions burning on the tip of my tongue, the spell was broken by the cheerful tinkling of the bell above the door, heralding the arrival of a customer. Theo blinked, his cheeks flushing slightly as he stepped back and cleared his throat. "Well, I should let you get back to it. Just, you know where to find me if you need anything, right?" I nodded, my own face growing warm as I scrambled to regain my composure. "Of course, always." With one last lingering look, he turned and slipped out into the bustling street, leaving me to ponder the myriad of possibilities that seemed to stretch out before me. New vistas waiting to be explored, unfettered by the baggage of the past. As I watched Theo's retreating form disappear into the crowd, I couldn't help but feel a spark of hope flicker to life deep within my chest. A new chapter was unfolding, one penned by my own hand and ruled not by the whims of others, but by the simple truths that had guided me through my darkest hours: resilience, determination, justice. Marla's reign was over. It was my turn to take the stage, and this time I had every intention of basking in the spotlight.